Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to our review of Cuphead. On this edition, the man who will be reviewing Cuphead is none other than Pacman himself, Tom Adcock, and reigning quiz champion. You can't forget that 9 months on.
Gonna say, that's running out of time. Sort of needs to do more reviews to get that hammered in before it goes terribly wrong at Christmas.
Yeah, otherwise people will still think Adkins is the champ because he was a 2-time winner back to back. So you definitely need to do a bit more reviewing. But you are here to review something that I thought was gone. Initially Cuphead was, it's a critical darling, but the warnings were given out that it's a very hard game, and I think it put people off. Hall, a well-established gamer, the leader in the Gamerscore run, hasn't finished this, and he's had it since launch back on the old Xbox in 2017.
Jesus.
So it's one of those things where it's got the better of him, and he's moved on. It may never get done, but you have gone off and finished Cuphead, so we're going to get into find out what the good, the bad and the ugly is. I'm sort of going to do the cards on the table here because, as I mentioned, this has been out on Xbox One. It started off as a Microsoft-y/Windows exclusive. It's come to Mac as well. But more recently, this year, it has landed on the Nintendo Switch, which is it's becoming a one-stop shop for gaming at the moment in terms of just the amount of games that are on there. But you played the Nintendo Switch version, and for those that don't know, that's sort of like a much more watered-down version of the game, isn't it? I'm told.
Well, it's not. Harder mode, harder, smaller screen, harder to dodge. Definitely the purest way, they say.
I totally made that up. I was trying to slip a little office bit in there, but yeah. I mean, on the Switch, if you're playing mobile, I would argue it's harder. Like when you took on Dark Souls Remastered, that there's easier ways to play that, but you were handed the circumstances and dealt with it. So that's now almost two, seemingly, and we'll get into if this is true or not, rock hard games back to back on the Switch. Obviously a little bit of time between them and a bit of a break-up, but that's 2 in a year. I mean, how's that Switch coping with that level of gaming? I thought it was just going to be casual, kids game, bit of Mario Kart, just pissing around with the nephews or whatever.
I know, I'm not doing the normal thing, am I? If someone saw my Switch gamer list, it's fucking weird. It has Dark Souls, Cuphead, SNK Classics, Breath of the Wild, bought off you second hand about 5 years after it came out. It's an odd catalogue, but
have you played
it's my catalogue. No, I played it on the Wii U. That's just sitting there.
I always forget that that's actually technically a Wii U port.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
We haven't had a Zelda game technically for the Switch on its own, or a Mario Kart game because that was a port and an update.
Fascinating to see how big the new Breath of the Wild is going to be. If that is, as you say, it was built for Wii U hardware, right? So
they don't need to change much, to be fair, on the Zelda front. It was serviceable. I mean, I know it chugged in certain areas in those forests. It was a bit of a stinker, but
barren wasteland, some say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we can get into that. It's not the second coming. That's all I'm going to say. There's definitely issues with that. But Cuphead was a critical darling. It was come out just shy of 2 years ago now, and a lot of people were talking about how the art style was good, but the gameplay was hard. But it was a solid entry, scored very well with the critics, and those that played it seemed to enjoy it. Do you have any? I mean, do you actually have any cards on the table for this? Because it's not really a developer I was aware of, Studio MDHR. I've never played any of their stuff before. It kind of come out of left field. I remember it being announced fucking years ago now. Like it must have been like 2013. We saw it lurking, and then it sort of almost died a death. But it's come back. But you got any basis for this other than you just knew it was a 2D rock hard? Maybe a throwback game.
So I can't remember if it was the announcement I saw. My furthest memory of it is seeing it when I was in Vancouver. We went to PAX and we went to the Microsoft stand. I think we went to their offices actually. And this was one of the games you could play like just one or two. I think it was a run and gun level and maybe one boss. Yeah. And I remember just thinking, because I'm old and those sort of like bollocks hard 2D games are right up my street. And I remember thinking, fuck, Xbox exclusive.
Yeah.
And at the time, I remember thinking I will definitely get an Xbox when I get back, but that bit has never happened. But the minute I saw it on Switch, I knew I had a bit of a backlog, but I knew I'd be picking it up. And then I had a holiday booked, a couple of long flights. I was like, literally perfect. I had nothing on my Switch, and I thought that is ideal, really.
I don't know if it is ideal because
Well,
I played Smash Brothers on the plane on a long haul flight, and I played 3/4 of it. I just wanted to finish it off on the holiday, and on the way back, I found time to do it. And I was getting irate towards the back end of that, and I thought this is not the place where you want to be getting hot under the collar.
True, but my brain is like, right, you're stuck. You can't walk away. There's not much else to do. Norwegian Air as well, terrible film choice. So there was limited choice. So I thought, right, I haven't bought any other games. It's Cuphead or die. So that was it. And I really sort of broke the back of it on those flights. So
you played it. Is it 100% you played in handheld because you didn't have the dock with you?
Yeah, I've never docked it. Yeah, 100%.
That's amazing. That is.
Yeah.
How was that experience? Because I've played a few extensive sessions on the. This is soon there's going to be a Switch Lite, so it'll be a bit smaller. But this is like the stock Switch, and my hands do get my two little fingers at the back.
I'm so glad you've said this. Like, you fucking turn into like a little claw, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's when I had to take a break.
Yeah.
I was sort of getting old man hands, and I was like, right, sort of need to stretch these out a bit. And yeah, that was then the catalyst. I was like, right, you've been doing a few hours now. You need to really, you literally can't play it. So yeah, I had to give my fingers a break. So I do, yeah, that is a hindrance, but it's normally at a point where you've played for long enough, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I mean, we know it's a 2D game. Is it just a run and gun game, or is it a platformer, or is it a melee game, or is it a bit of a mixture of all of that? We know it's. I'm assuming it's only 2D. There's absolutely no 3D sections in this.
Exactly. Basically, I would say it's a cross between Dark Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. So essentially, just like I forget how many bosses there are. Maybe sort of 17, 18, that kind of ballpark. Essentially, just bosses. There's 3 worlds and a final tiny world. And in each of those worlds, you have 2 like run and gun, think like Contra. So enemies coming at you from all angles, a bit of platforming, like hard as nails, and that's where you'll kind of get your coins, where you can then make purchases from the store. Like it is a bit like Colossus. Like I know you've played that game. In that there are limited abilities you can upgrade to, but very small. Like I pretty much the first alternate weapon I bought, I think, was my only other one I used based. Do you know what I mean? Like I ended up buying 3 or 4 different kind of weapons, projectiles, but I just used the starting one and then like my first upgrade exclusively. So you have very limited like upgrades. You got the choice of 2 guns per level, like what you choose. You get a buff, which can be. There's a few. The most handy I found is you can give yourself an extra hit point from 3 to 4. But that then reduces the damage you do with your weapons. Yeah. And then there's you can do a dash from word go, but there's a buff to make so you can dash through enemies. So it almost gives you another hit point, really. But other than that, there's very few upgrades. It's kind of, here's your character, here's your weapon, here's what you can do, go for it kind of thing. And it is just... to be honest, it is kind of just learning patterns essentially. It is deadly hard, but it's old school hard in that you die quickly and often, but you can learn fast basically.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you can die quickly and often if you're not up for it, or you're not switched on, or you don't know the patterns just yet. Is there any punishment for dying other than going back to the start of the level, going back to a checkpoint? Do you lose any money? Is there, going back to the old Mario games, you had a set number of lives that you could jimmy the system and get more of those, but you could get a game over screen. Is that ever a threat in Cuphead?
No, not at all. Just if you die, you go back to the beginning of the boss. But the only heartbreaking thing is it has a kind of I don't really know how to explain it. When you die, you'll have the little fella, you'll see the start point and the finish point, of the boss and his different phases, marked as checkpoints on a line. and your little fella will run, and you'll see how close you got to beating him. And if you're getting super close and you realise you just died at the very last second, it's so frustrating. That's the punishment, the frustration. But the bosses, they've got so much character and so much life. Like, you almost don't mind dying. Almost, if you know what I mean. Yeah, they're great. So, and the different phases are really cool. So it does, and it's so, like it's got that thing of like a Trials where you die and you can be playing again in about 3 seconds. Like,
right.
It's really quick. Yeah.
How does that make? How do you feel about that? That's something that obviously you and I had probably grown up on, is a limited number of lives, and part of the challenge. Well, I never used to complete the games when I was younger because I weren't good enough, but some people would say the challenge was that there was a threat that if you kept on bollocking it up, you will end up with a game over screen and do the whole thing again. Do you think that having the lives being removed as a fail state is just a modern evolution of gaming that needs to stay? We can't be going back to these limited lives,
mate. If you went back to that on this, it'd be mental. I don't think they were that hard like in the olden days. They can't have been.
They were just shit, most of them. They weren't hard. Yeah. They were just crap, so it made it harder.
That is very true. Short, crap, terrible controls. It was like, right, deal with that. Yeah, no, this definitely doesn't need that. I mean, maybe I have got soft, but that I can't imagine anyone getting through it if you had like 3 lives and you had to start the whole level world again. That'd be insane. Because basically, the way it works is that like each boss might have sort of 3. I think it's generally 3 phases. Maybe some of the later ones more. But
this is all one screen typically. So when you get to the boss screen, they'll change form, or something will change during the fight.
And it will become a bit like Shadow of the Colossus again. It's almost like the bosses are a level, because there'll be platforming involved in the boss, or they'll change so much from one phase to another. It will test you in a completely different way. So what tends to happen is you'll kind of learn, you start, you're like, I'm never going to do this. Then after like so many goes, you kind of get to the second phase once. You're like, okay, I'm starting to learn this. Yeah, and then you'll kind of get yourself through to the third phase once after like an hour or so. And you're like, right. And then basically it's just a matter of pieces. Like, you need one perfect run. But on the harder bosses, it's not like I could go back straight after and beat him again. It's just where everything comes together for that one run, and you're like, amazing. So like having the 3 lives thing, it'd be nigh on impossible because you'd have to get to such a level with it.
Yeah, it'd be sickening. And some games do have permadeath. I remember there's a difficulty mode in Wolfenstein 2 where you get 1 life through the whole game of that, and I looked at the trophy for it, and it said 0.01% of people have done this, and I was like, yeah, no shit. I'm surprised there's even that many.
Who needs that in their life? Mentalist.
That's like a 12-hour game as well, and that's fucking hard as nails at times because you can't always. You get put down quickly. What's the checkpoint in like? So you get to. So you said there's maybe like 2 or 3 sort of lead up levels before you get to a boss. Do you have to beat the whole string in one go, or is it once you've completed a stage or a level, that's booked, and you just have to concentrate on what's ahead of you?
No, so I've not really described it too well. Basically, the bosses... So you've got an overworld map, like sort of Super Mario World, like free running though, so you can kind of go anywhere. There might even be some hidden coins on the world. I never found one, but I'm assuming there is.
I've heard there is sort of hidden stuff on that board.
Yeah. I didn't find any of that. Yeah. But essentially, you'll walk over and there'll either be a boss, it'll have like I'm sure, I don't need to explain this, but all the graphics are like very like 1920s, 1930s sort of cartoon-esque, really good, like amazing. And then it'll be like the boss battle will have like a title card, like an old cartoon as well. It'll be like, I don't know, Marion Minx in a freight train ride or something. And you'll be like, okay, this is a boss battle. And then if you start that, you can go into that. So there's 3 like overworlds, and then they're locked out. So you have to beat all the bosses in World 1. Then you get the key to go to World 2, onto 3, and onto the final area. Right. So within that world, though, you can take the bosses. There might be 7 bosses. You can fight anyone when you want. If you get frustrated with one, you go to the next one. Also in that overworld are 2 like run and gun levels. But the run and gun are working exactly the same way as the bosses. It's just that there's not a boss. So that's very like platform heavy, like I said, like the Contra sort of levels. And if you die there, the same thing happens. It tells you how close you were to the end of the stage. If you die, you just go back to the beginning of the stage, but no penalties. There's not like, you never have to do a run and gun before fighting a boss.
Right.
If you fight a boss, you just there is one like later boss who essentially is his own boss run. So like, he's a fucking nightmare. So you have to like fight. You're on like in a casino, and there's like there's dice in the middle, and then you'll randomly like hit the dice, and that one, then you have to get through like 3 stages of 3 cards. So technically, you could have to fight 9 bosses before you then have to instantly fight him.
Right.
So that is more like what you're saying. He's a fucking nightmare because you can get all the way to the end and then die, and then you're back to the very beginning having to fight potentially 9 bosses.
Yeah, I can see. Well, at least it's not prevalent throughout the entire game, because I can imagine that would wear thin in that particular instance. You mentioned about hit points. I'm assuming it's not like a dynamic health bar. It's once you get hit, you lose a block of life, and you have maybe 3 blocks of life, and once all 3 are gone, you're dead. There's no like 100% down to 62%, depending on the level of pain or damage you've taken.
Spot on. Is hit and 1 down. You only ever get 3 lives. Like I said, you can have that buff to give you a 4th, and then any projectile that comes out of an enemy or falls from the sky or anything that's pink, you can do a parry on. They call it a parry. Basically, you jump, and then when you hit the object, you jump again, and basically it's just like you won't get hit basically, and it will fill up your super meter. So you do that 5 times in a level, you can unleash like a super move which does like crazy damage to the enemy.
Nice. Is that something that you try and tactically play into? Is build up that super meter so you can unleash it on the boss, or is it an afterthought or do you need it really to get through?
Yeah, you kind of do, and it depends on the boss or on the, because like basically there'll always be pink things coming at you. Sometimes they're almost like you kind of feel like you're being suckered into trying to get them to do the parry because it's almost impossible. Others, they're a lot easier, and you can really build up that meter for like a later stage in the boss. So it all just becomes a game of like tactics, and you try something, it doesn't work, you try something else. It's like a little puzzle basically.
Yeah. So you go and say a random boss in the world that you've got unlocked, and you can go in between them. On average, how long do you think each boss would take on from establishing? Say you first saw them and you learn the pattern and then beat them, but then also once you've learnt the pattern, how long are the boss battles typically? Are they a few minutes? Are they long, or are they quite short if you know what you're doing?
Yeah, so they're short. If once you know what you're doing, you can beat most of them in sort of 2 to 3 minutes. The one exception is that boss run. He's like sort of 7 to 10 minutes. And imagine that with you can actually, you do get a hit point back, like as part of those dice. Like if you land on a lucky square, you will get 1 hit point back. But essentially, you're going through like 10 minutes and only been able to be hit 3 or 4 times. Like it is. Yeah, the levels of concentration required and stuff. You feel your eyes go. I think I actually went a bit blind playing it, to be honest. Those fucking claw fingers coming out. So yeah, it is fucking hard. But yeah, I would say get to a boss. You're looking at sort of 1 to 2 hours. I find from like starting a boss to being able to beat him. Right. There was a stage in the midpoint where I really sort of found my flow, and I probably beat 4 bosses in a row in well under an hour. I was like, right, I'm really sort of finding my rhythm with this, and then it kind of ramped up hardness again. I was like, right, that's not happening.
Yeah. So the main focus sounds like it's the bosses. How original are each of the bosses, and are they unique enough to have the 17 or 18 or however many there are in the game, or do they rehash and reuse stuff that you think actually this feels like a bit like the bloke from World 2, for example?
No, absolutely not. They're super original. The only ones that are weaker are those ones in that boss run I keep talking about. Yeah. They're all right, but they're clearly like not as well thought out. They're not as like, I don't know, charismatic. They're sort of B-list that they probably didn't use for main cast. Went, right, stick them all in one.
Chuck them in there.
Because there's like one, it's like 3 bottles of booze that kind of spill on you with faces. You're like, how much imagination's gone into that, really? But the rest of them are really good, and they're all super unique. You have like basically, I didn't really mention this, the majority of the levels are like the ones you've seen, your Cuphead, your running as platforms, whatever. Even in the boss battle, there might be like platforms that disappear and reappear, and constantly requiring you to jump. There are maybe like 5 levels that are like flying, like so you're in a plane.
Oh yeah.
So it's very like, it's not very different, but it's just obviously you're not flying. jumping, and then you're then just dodging between more like classic kind of 2D shooter. But they keep it interesting. The bosses will switch like from right to left, left to right, and then up and down. Like it's a nightmare, really. But
do they do the same thing over and over, or will they sometimes mix it up? So say if they go right to left, will they sometimes go right up just to front?
I mean, most of it is like pretty locked in, but they'll basically, the first phase often would have like one of 3 different like projectiles they could, so it's never exactly the same first of all, if you know what I mean. So the boss appears and you're like, right, I know he's going to do one of 3 things here, which one's coming first? And then it's never the same, so it's never like a complete, you don't get that kind of buy where you can literally just go, right, I know exactly what I'm doing the whole way through this fight. There's always elements of chance and risk and luck.
Yeah, which is sometimes good, but sometimes can get frustrating when something happens that you feels out of your control and ends up costing you. Does the difficulty scale up nicely? Like, does it start off easy, or does it start off hard, and then does it crescendo into something ridiculous, or does it peak in the middle, or is it pretty steady, sort of upwards?
They've pretty much got it spot on, but there are there's a massive spike from world 2 to 1, like a real, it jumps up. I'd be interested to know where Hall binned it. There's like one boss maybe in the first world that really could be in the third world. Like when I've read, you read those lists afterwards of Cuphead bosses ranked and stuff, everyone sort of says the same thing. And then there's a couple towards the end that could really be at the beginning. Basically, it's kind of top heavy as well. So I can't remember the numbers, but I feel like there's like 6 bosses in World War, 5 bosses in World 1, but like sort of 8 in World 3 that are that much harder. Right. So you've got 1 or 2 in the third world where they could probably, but maybe you're just a lot better by then and they seem quite easy in comparison. But then the last 3 are just fucking ridiculously hard. It just really ramps up. So for the most part, it's a nice bit of scaling, really.
Yeah. You mentioned you could buy things from the shop and they could give you perhaps a change in projectile, or give you an extra, hit point and a bit like that. What other bits and pieces can you buy? And I'm assuming currency is limited, so you can't just go in and piss all your money away on everything. There's certain things you kind of have to think, well, I need that rather than that, and make a choice over to which direction you're going to go.
Yeah, there's not a lot of because basically you can get however many run and guns I said. I think there's 2 per world, and then there's 3 coins in the run and guns per world. So there's only like so I had how much of things? Maybe 4. Basically, you can probably only buy 5 or 6 different items from the shop over the course of the game. I don't know how many hidden coins there are, but there is definitely limited. It's it's all the classic kind of shooters. So you got your starting gun just shoots in 8 directions at a reasonable speed. There's like a tracker gun that will give less damage, but you then haven't got to worry about hitting the boss. You just got to worry about dodging his projectiles, and you're always going to be hitting him, which is pretty handy. Then you've got a nice sort of like scatter shot, which was my favourite. So super powerful, but you have to get right up in their face. There's a bunch of others, like medium one that kind of bounces. So kind of all your normal kind of guns that you'd see in other games are there. Then the buffs are, like I said, the extra hit point. You've got the dash. I can't even remember what the other one was, to be honest, but they were the 2 I used. And so there's not a great deal there. Like, your upgrades are limited, and it just really is pick your poison and see what you can do. I don't think there's like a right way or a wrong way. There's
no silver bullet there then that will bail you out if you're
God, no. I read afterwards, I should have known it, that a lot of people rely on that dash when you go through enemies. A lot of people said I don't know how they would have beat it without it, and I didn't really start using that towards the end. And to be honest, I just didn't realise how good it was. I don't think I ever realised exactly what it was doing, so that was a bit annoying. I probably cost myself a bit there.
Well, what can you do when you're stuck on a plane itself? We haven't spoken about whether there's any narrative towards this. In most cases, there's normally like a classic sort of 1 minute setup, and then you're off on your way, and then you beat one world, and you think, oh, that's the end, and then it turns out that whoever you're trying to save or whatever you're trying to kill has moved, and then you eventually get to the end, and they're there, and you take them on. Is there any sort of narrative in this, and is it?
Yeah, there is. It's fucking nonsensical, really, but it's all right. It's kind of fun and a bit adult. Basically, Cuphead and his mate or brother Mugman They're out on the piss, go gambling at the casino, sort of on a winning
I
streak.
thought it was a kids' game.
Mate, they're sort of out on the lash. They're winning loads. It's the Devil's Casino, so then he gives them like a proposition bet to if they roll the dice and win, they get all the money in the casino. If they lose, he gets their souls. Cuphead, sort of pound signs in his little eyes. Goes for the bet, loses, really costs them, and then they strike a deal that he'll let them off if they go around and collect all his soul debts. So all the other people who have lost at the casino,
are they the bosses then?
They're the bosses, yeah. So they don't want to go lightly because they don't want their souls taken by Satan. So you're there. You're basically the devil's debt collector. And
nice.
There's a couple of cool little cutscenes as you kind of go through the levels. You know, like the devil's right hand man and the devil sort of chat about your progress and that. But few and far between. But it's a nice little setup. I mean, it is, like I said, it's typical Mario nonsensical, just in a more adult theme. But you know, it ties it all together loosely, basically.
Well, that's pretty good. We have to speak about the graphics and art style of this game, how it looks, because that's really what put it on the map. Because it looked like a cartoon, like an actual cartoon running in the trailers and whatnot. I'm assuming nothing changed when you play the game. It's almost like you're playing an old fucking like Popeye cartoon.
Yeah, mate, it looks incredible, but you kind of my brain can't work it out because I'm like, those cartoons, you know, obviously have dated. Modern stuff looks really good. Modern consoles can do better, but anyway, I guess you just haven't seen much like this, like as a video game. I guess the only thing I can think of which were much worse were like, do you remember those old Mega Drive, like Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion things? Like in my brain, they looked like cartoons back then. They really were, yeah. Or like Aladdin, those sort of things, yeah. But basically, yeah, it looks the tits, like for like an animated game. And like I said, the bosses they're, you know, 2 times the size of the screen a lot of the time. They got so much like character and personality that you can't sort of take your eyes off them anyway. And like anyone who sort of sees you playing, you see their little eyes start. Like, to be honest, it's probably undersold it playing it in handheld mode all the time because I bet it looks great on the big screen. Yeah. But also, I mean, it ran great on the Switch, looked great on the Switch. You know, I don't know what it's running at or.
You had no slowdown or any issue?
No, I mean, mate, it would live and die by that sort of thing. The controls are tight. You can't be dealing with anything like that. So it runs perfectly. Nice.
What are the controls like? Is it? I've just finished playing Control and I've got to use almost every button on the pad. You don't have to, but that's certain powers are mapped there. So if you want to have a bit of variety, you do. It does Cuphead have that level of complexity where you're using all sorts of different buttons, or is it quite, you know, like a throwback to like Mario where it's like directions and maybe 2-3 buttons max for running and shooting and doing whatever?
It's a bit more than that. You use the directional pad on the left of the Switch, they're in handheld mode. You use all the buttons on the right, like, you know, the 4 there, they will have an action, like your dash, your gun, your jump, and your special. L1, I don't know if it's actually called L1 on a Switch, but that would change your gun. Pathetic. And you are constantly having to juggle between them all, if you know what I mean. You're switching guns in different phases, you're getting up close, you're getting away, you're jumping, you're dashing. Like, it is like, when it all goes well, you can tell it's all coming together. You're like, this is really working. I'm really juggling things here and it's going well. So yeah, you are constantly going through everything, but it's not like, you know, you're not using 25 buttons. It's sort of in between, like super basic and super complicated. It's nice middle ground.
Yeah, well, that sounds good. Like you said, it would live and die by controls and the performance, because it's so hard that if either of those are off, then it's just going to make the game not enjoyable to play at all with all that sort of nonsense going on.
Yeah.
Do you know how long roughly you spent to get through it all in the end? Is it double figures or? Yeah,
I reckon about maybe just north of 15 hours.
Crikey.
Yeah,
no whistles then and warping.
No, none of that schmalarkey. I would say, you know, it's hard to say because I enjoyed it so much. But I reckon it's somewhere in that region. Yeah, I don't know if it tells you somewhere, but.
No, well, I've got how long to beat up, and that's like people send in how long it took them.
Yeah.
And some people are saying it's basically polling out as a main story only. Average is about just shy of 10, so 9 hours 44. rushed, some people doing it in 6, leisure 14 hours, and then mains plus extras is no shorter than 14 and a half hours. So yeah, it's between that sort of 9 and 15, isn't it? Really, depending on how stuck you get, I guess, and
yeah, exactly.
how much.
The thing is, I can imagine. I think like the key, like with me, had I've not played this on a holiday and had that sort of free time to do it and to dedicate to it and get stuck, on like a couple of bus trips and planes.
Yeah.
If you come away from it, I think then you're going to get rusty, and going back is going to be a fucking bastard because you're like, I don't really want to start at the beginning, but I'm now not good enough to start where I'm at. So I can see Hall like he's ground to a halt, and it's probably impossible to go back. So I'm glad I played it how I played it, because otherwise I wouldn't have got through it.
No, well, that's what I was going to ask, because you were playing it because of the holiday and downtime and whatnot, and it is sort of like the only game you had. If you was at home playing it, is there a chance that you would have got halfway through and then gone, just go back to The Witcher for a little bit, and then that was it? That could be the end of it. Or would it have held your attention?
I'm stubborn but the thing is, it would become a Dark Souls where it probably consumed me for 4 months, which is ridiculous. You don't need to be playing Cuphead for that sort of length of time. But, it annoys me if I can't do it. So in my head, I think, right, I'm as good as I used to be as a kid, and I'm definitely not. So I don't know, mate. But I kind of knew that my brain was sort of ready for like how I play and how my sort of gaming level. And I was like, right, this holiday is the perfect opportunity. Those planes, and then that downtime waiting for like Sarah to get ready in the evening, bald head Tom sort of ready a good 45 minutes before her. That's good gaming time there.
Is 45 minutes enough though to get a new bastard boss, or would you just use it as training and think, if I get lucky, I'll get lucky?
Well, this is the thing, right? I always found that one perfect run was necessary, and then I never would believe that I could get that off again, potentially, not straight away. But once you start getting to like the next phase, so if you play it for like even 20 minutes and you're stuck, and then you get to phase 2 twice, your brain then at that point it's locked in. It's one of those really like sweet games where if you die, it's not really cheap, it's your fault. So once you learn the pattern, once you learn what you're doing wrong, you tend to always get past, unless you have you're not concentrating, you fuck up. You'll tend to always be able to get back to where you were. So if you progress to stage 1, like 2 or 3, even then if you go out for the evening and then you wake up the next day and play it, you'll then get straight back to stage 3, if you know what I mean, or there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Did you ever get? Sorry, go on.
Go on. No, go on. That's it.
I was gonna say, did you ever get mentally tired from it and like have to just, you start making mistakes and getting worse? Because I've had it where I was playing something a bit earlier and that. I got to a stage, I kept just dying on shit that I never did before. I was like, I need to just get away from this for a little while and come back a bit later on. Is that a common thread for Cuphead?
Oh, mate, exactly. It's like gaming at its purest. So, yeah, exactly. You realise you're better than this. You're just making silly mistakes. You've got further before. So, yeah, you just take a break, go to bed. And a couple of times that happened. Within like 20 minutes, 10 minutes of the restart the next day or next gameplay, I got through the whole level. Yeah. And I was like, right, that's all I needed was that break. It was just like, you frazzled your brain and you just needed to take a break. So, yeah, absolutely, mate.
Lovely. Is there any other business that you've got that you wanted to raise that we haven't touched on? Or
no, I don't think so.
Covered all grounds for your perspective. So we're getting close to finding out exactly what your closing thoughts are, and then Cuphead's official grading, I guess. Yeah,
well, final thoughts, I guess. It's a fucking bastard hard game.
Not for everyone.
Not for everyone, but if I don't know where you need to be at, like what sort of like lifestyle you need to get through it, because I think you need to be able to dedicate time to it, but also it's got that nice kind of, you can just play it, you need to play it constantly in short bursts. That's it. If that's you and you want a bastard hard platformer, good on Switch, really good. Like obviously Dark Souls was a bit ludicrous to be playing on Switch. This is a good match.
Mate, they've got The Witcher 3 coming to Switch. How much bigger do you want to get?
It. Don't be needing that in handheld mode. Fucking hell.
Maybe you should restart it and go on that. Sort of scrap all the PS4.
Actually, though. Need to get back to that. Anyway, final thoughts. It's bloody hard, but really good. I always feel it's grading. Is it 1 to 10?
Yeah, 1 to 10. at the moment.
I hadn't really thought of this before. It is a 9.
Right,
It does nothing wrong. It's not for everyone, but it is bloody hard. But it's unlike anything. I really hope they do some DLC or a sequel to it. Basically,
I thought they did some DLC. Like,
I haven't checked. I didn't get any sort of loaded in. Normally, with like the Switch version, because it's so late to the game, you kind of get that bundled. But
true,
definitely wasn't anything.
No, I thought
I'll have a look actually.
Like, don't deal with the devil or something like that. I don't know.
Mate, that's the subtitle to the main game.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Bloody hell! I don't know then. Oh no, wasn't it the delicious last course?
Ooh, do you know what?
That's it.
That does ring a bell.
But I don't think it's on Switch. There's platforms Xbox One and Microsoft Windows. So, there we go. Coming 2020. That's what it's claiming here.
And nothing for the Switch.
Well, Switch is on there, but it's not out till next year.
Okay.
Mate, that's going to be like a fucking full-blown sequel. You don't want to get snarled up in that.
Wait till I'm going on holiday again.
Chuck it on that. Unbelievable. How many of these sort of games do you think you can play in a year? Could you just do these back to back, do you think? Or
this is, I mean, to be honest, mate, I'm not built for Dark Souls. I got through that, but that took months, and that was a real sort of like basically the minute that was finished, I was like, thank fuck for that. But also then kind of instantly missed it. This was a much shorter, it took me way less time, like probably a 20th of the time to get through. I liked it, mate. I've gone straight into Celeste now, actually. Which was also like, I don't know if it had the same kind of bastard hard tagline, but I know it was like deemed pretty hard.
Pretty challenging, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I'm on the very last world on that now as well. So I quite like these, especially on, like your thing is just digital only. I think mine is just, hard or bastard hard on the Switch. I like it.
Yeah, that's good. You need to get back to Hollow Knight. Or is that one of those games?
Yeah, but I've got it on PS4. I should really get that back. Yeah, that's the thing. I have done exactly that on it. Stopped playing. A fucking Red Dead cost me. It came out and I was like, right, can't miss the bandwagon. And I've never gone back to it.
That's unfortunate. Because I can imagine that being a game where you go back and go, I don't even know where I am. Yeah,
no, that's the thing. It's a proper Metroidvania, so you get super lost in that. So yeah, I think I'd have to start again on that, to be honest, mate.
Add it on your wish list on Switch, and if it goes for cheap, just take the hit, uninstall PS4.
Yeah.
Start from scratch. Sequel coming soon for that.
Serious?
Yeah. It's meant to be like a DLC, but they've put enough content in it for it to be a sequel, they're saying.
Jesus.
So that's nice. That. But Cuphead, 9 out of 10, that is a gold seal of approval, which is good. And I can see why from the outside. I'm tempted to get it, but there's something that's just holding me back. I think it's just, have I got the patience at the moment or the time?
Do you know what? I think it's still going about 20 quid. I can't remember if I paid 16 or 22. Yeah. Both those numbers are in my head. Maybe that was Celeste, one or the other.
16 odd.
Yeah, maybe wait till it comes down sub 10, and that way, it's worth it at 16, but at some point it is going to come down again. So maybe grab it then.
Well, that's the good thing about the old Switch, is that you can add things to your wish list and they'll email you and say it's on sale.
Nice, I didn't even know that.
No, so that's handy. But they're building out the old Switch. I'll be jumping into Super Mario World now that SNES online thing has landed.
Oh yeah, I was talking to you offline on that. When you get to those lost woods, see if you can find your way out. It fucking drove me mad last time I played that.
What, Super Mario World?
Super Mario World, like third or fourth world. It's called they're these green woods. They're pretty sure they're the lost woods. And basically, there's always like just an exit. How there is in Mario, you hit a castle, hit a box or whatever. And in this, it's a hidden. So you finish it and you go back to the beginning. There's another way to get out the level. And I remember it from being a kid, but I just couldn't. My brain could not remember the way out of this level, and it just frustrated me so much. I just binned it. I was like, right, I can't do that.
No need. No such trouble with Cuphead, because once you're down the boss, you're out of there and done.
Exactly.
Simplicity, sometimes better. Keep it simple. Well, there you go. Cuphead's got a 9 out of 10, which is good to hear. I've been doing a few 6 out of 10s lately, back to back sort of disappointments, but I think we're getting into that time of the year where newer games are coming out, and also the older ones like this have still got life in them. So if you've not played them, there's 9 out of 10's going to miss if you're at a loose end. Cuphead on Switch, just as good as if it was on the PC or the Xbox One, and that's him saying it and not me.
At last,
in his car. But Adcock said it again. Right, I'll close it down, mate. Thanks for that.
No worries, mate.
Hopefully they can get a few more sales off the back of this, the old Cuphead boys, because I think it's sold 4 million now, so they're doing all right.
Yeah, it's decent, isn't it?
Yeah, so they've done a good job there, and looking out for that DLC in 2020. And if you partake in that, we'll get you back. And also for Celeste, if you do finish that, we'll get you back in for that one. It can maybe unfair to compare them, but it's sort of like a little run for you, isn't it? These 2D harder type games.
Let's do it. Yeah,
sort of
why
like
not?
Your little niche you've carved out for yourself in the ranks.
Well, yeah, so I sort of thought you have to do that, didn't you? Sort of unique selling point and all that. Sort of really sort of home in, double down. Don't know what I'm talking, they're just words. Right, see you later, mate.
See you later. Everyone else, thanks for your time, and ta-da.